She sacrificed meals for books. What the millionaire CEO discovered next changed everything. In the heart of Cedar Grove, Ava fought bravely against a tide of adversity. She was a single mother whose life revolved around her bright-eyed daughter, Mia. Every day, as Ava served coffee to regulars and cleaned houses, she carried an unshakable belief. Education was the force that could lift her daughter from the constraints of their small, second-hand furnished apartment, a place bursting with well-loved books and dreams. They lived in a tight-knit town, one where the high school hung on the edge of crumbling, while whispers of wealth masked the very real struggles of its residents. "Just one more shift, Mia," Ava would say, the clatter of dishes echoing her resolve. She often skipped meals to bring home those extra dollars, believing that every sacrifice made space for knowledge that would shape Mia's future. In the back of her mind, she hoped it would all pay off. But reality was unforgiving, putting pressure on their fragile dreams. When school started again with sunny optimism, Mia's brilliance lit up the communities around her like a beacon. Yet that light cast shadows the biases of Cedar Grove that were blind to grit and determination. The morning of the school's big parent-teacher meeting, Richard, the wealthy CEO, strode in like he owned the place. His presence loomed large, and Ava felt her stomach twist. He was here to make a difference, yet his demeanor screamed of privilege and assumptions. "Your daughter is a real gem," Richard said to Ava at the meeting, his eyes glazing over her worn-out shoes and tired face. "It's truly refreshing to see a young mind like hers." His words dripped with condescension, and Ava's heart sank. Here was a man with power, who, despite his well-meaning intentions, saw a daughter's promise but failed miserably to recognize a mother's sacrifice. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Mia's accolades soon painted the town in bright colors. Reports fawned over her achievements, and the community buzzed with admiration. But for Ava, juggling multiple jobs with dwindling energy, every headline felt like a slap in the face. She anxiously awaited a stroke of luck or simple acknowledgement, yet all she found were doubts creeping in as if her own ambitions were unaffordable luxuries. The turning point arrived when the storm swept through Cedar Grove, fierce and unrelenting. It battered the town, leaving the streets flooded and shaking lives to the core, including Richard S. As he emerged from his fortress of privilege to aid, perhaps for the first time, he found his values tested against the raw power of community. In the aftermath, the strength of Cedar Grove reminded Ava of hope. Their shared struggles echoed a truth about resilience and unity. They all felt the weight of loss and riches reduced to nothing. And it was here, amid the wreckage, where past judgments and biases could melt into something unexpected. As both Ava and Richard stood searching for something to grasp within the chaos, the question loomed unspoken. Could they find a way to bridge their worlds and, together, rewrite their stories? Ava stared at the flooded streets, a mixture of exhaustion and determination settling into her bones. The storm had torn through Cedar Grove, leaving in its wake not just destruction, but an odd sense of unity among the townsfolk. People were stepping out of their homes, brushes and mops in hand, ready to help each other rebuild what little they had. For a fragile moment, amidst the turmoil, Ava felt a flicker of hope. Then, she caught sight of Richard. He was directing volunteers, with an enthusiasm that seemed unnatural for a man of his stature. She watched as he laughed and encouraged people, his earlier condescension washed away by the storm. It was a new side of him, one that sparked her curiosity. "Hey, Ava!" His voice boomed over the sound of rushing water. "We could use more hands over here." Ava hesitated, grappling with rumors surrounding Richard's wealth and reputation. But Mia's smile flitted through her mind, reminding her that her daughter was counting on her to show that change was possible. With a resigned heart, she stepped forward, joining the group of volunteers. The hours melted away as they worked side by side, digging through mud and debris, sharing stories about their lives. Each word Richard spoke felt genuine, almost charming. The more he opened up, the more Ava began to see the vulnerability behind his polished exterior. He wasn't just a well-off businessman. He was a man deeply affected by the desperation all around them. "Did you grow up here?" Richard asked, wiping sweat from his brow. His gaze was direct, an unguarded look shining through his eyes. "No," Ava replied. "I moved here to give my daughter a better life, better schools, safer streets. The usual dream." He nodded, and for a fleeting moment, they shared a silent understanding, a bond forged by dreams and sacrifices. The rest of the day blurred into a dance of laughter and tears as Ava and Richard worked together, a newfound alliance beginning to form. However, once the sun dipped below the horizon, the reality of their lives reasserted itself. The disruption in Cedar Grove would soon require rebuilding not just homes, but the fragile connections within community ties. As night enveloped them, Ava felt her heart clench. Could she trust him? Did he truly understand the challenges she faced? Days passed, and Richard became a constant presence in their community by organizing fundraising events. His wealth was transforming into a lifeline for the residents, including for families like Ava's. It was both heartwarming and infuriating, seeing him navigate freely through the world that had so often cast her aside. But as the days turned into weeks, doubt crept into Ava's heart. Was this all a facade? Was he merely doing it for show? When he unexpectedly promised to secure scholarships for Mia, Ava felt torn. The weight of her pride battled against the desperate need for her daughter to succeed. "Why would you want to help us?" she confronted him one afternoon. The vulnerability in her voice surprised even her. Richard faltered. "Because I've learned that true wealth isn't just money, Ava. It's the connections, the community, and maybe even redemption." Ava's heart raced at the stark honesty in his words. Could redemption be found here in this shared chaos? As they faced the fading daylight, a connection grew deeper between them. Yet, as temptation mingled with doubt, a question lingered in the air. Would either of them surrender their pasts to embrace a new future, one they could forge together? And so, as hope reclaimed its space in her heart, Ava asked herself, what happens next, when the lines between desperation and opportunity blur? Ava woke early the next morning, the sun filtering through her partially boarded-up windows. The chaos of the past few weeks had blended into a restless swell of activity. Yet she lay still for a moment, swallowed by uncertainty. The weight of her commitment clashed with her instincts, pushing her toward Richard and the changes he represented. She decided to visit the community center, where Richard was organizing another fundraising event. When she arrived, the air buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses, punctuated by the chatter of hopeful conversations. It felt surreal, yet the joy around her was intoxicating. "Good morning, Ava," Richard greeted her, a bright smile spreading across his face. He was dressed sharply, as usual, but with an edge of casualness that felt warm and inviting. "I'm really glad you're here. We could use your perspective on the silent auction items." Ava felt a spark of anticipation. Her opinions mattered. They spent the next few hours arranging everything together, their hands brushing against each other more than once. Each spark set off an unexpected thrill, making her heart race with the possibility of something beyond mere friendship. As they organized, Richard opened up more about his vision for the event. "I want this to be more than just raising funds," he said, his voice earnest. "I want to create a platform for people to share their stories. Community isn't just about helping. It's about connecting." The way he spoke wrapped around her heart, a reassuring balm to her anxieties. But a small voice in her mind reminded her of her doubts. Could he really be trusted? Mid-afternoon, the auction kicked off, drawing in people from all corners of Cedar Grove. As the bidding began, Ava found herself cornered by a group of women who were keen to learn about her connection with Richard. "You two seem pretty close these days," one remarked with a grin, nudging her playfully. Ava's cheeks flushed as the laughter enveloped her. "We're just working together," She tried to deflect, but inside she felt the pressure building. Did she want to share this burgeoning bond? The event went smoothly, laughter echoing off the walls of the center. But as the evening wore on, Ava noticed Richard slipping away amidst the crowd. Driven by a sudden instinct, she followed him, heart pounding in her chest. Outside, the night wrapped around him, and he stood alone, gazing into the distance. Whether lost in thought or searching for direction, he seemed vulnerable, something she hadn't seen before. "Hey," she said softly, stepping up beside him. "You okay?" Richard turned, surprise flashing across his face. "Just thinking," he admitted, the honesty resting heavy between them, "about how to keep this momentum going. It's easy to get people here once, but how do we keep them engaged?" Her heart ached for him. He was trying to help, but his fears were laid bare. "You're doing so much already. This community needs you," she replied. Her voice low yet steady, he sighed, a sound thick with the weight of expectation. "And what if I fail them?" Ava's mind raced. This man who had built his life on success was now afraid of loss. She took a step closer, feeling bold. "You won, T." But I think her voice faltered, the words hanging in the air. "What I think is that maybe you need to lean on this community, too. You've shown us the way, now let us show you." His eyes bore into hers, a silent exchange swelling with tension. Could he truly see her as an ally, rather than just a charity case? And as they stood together, the world fell away, leaving only this moment of reckoning. What would happen when those walls finally crumbled? Would they emerge stronger, or simply lose themselves in the rubble? The silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken words and fragile vulnerability. Ava felt the warmth of Richard's gaze wrap around her, a soothing comfort against the cool night air. In that moment, she wanted to say everything at once, the doubts, the hopes, the fears swirling within her. But the words remained unformed, tumbling in her thoughts like leaves caught in a whirlwind. Richard blinked first, breaking the spell. "You really think they'll back me up?" His voice held a hint of disbelief, like a child seeking reassurance in a dark room. Ava nodded resolutely, her heart swelling with a fierce determination. "I do. You've already inspired so many people. The way they talk about you, it's like you're a breath of fresh air in Cedar Grove." As the breeze ruffled the leaves overhead, Richard seemed to draw strength from her belief. She could see small lines of worry soften on his brow. "I want to be that for them, someone they can count on," he murmured, then hesitated. "But what if they find out I have my own fears, too? Then they'll see you're human, just like the rest of us." His smile was tentative but genuine, and in that flicker of connection, Ava felt more than just hope. It was a bond forged not from the specter of perfection, but from the shared weight of imperfection. Richard shifted, looking out into the darkness, and for a moment, it felt as if they were the only two people in the world. "Maybe that's what I'm afraid of the most," he confessed. "That if I let my guard down, they won't like what they find. Or perhaps they will admire you even more for your honesty." She countered, a spark igniting within her. "People crave authenticity. You've already shown that by being here tonight." He turned to her, eyes piercing into hers, and Ava noticed how deeply he absorbed her words. If only he knew how much he meant to her and this community. A surge of warmth spread through her chest, grounding her in this moment. But before she could respond, the sound of clattering chairs and raised voices drifted from the community center, people wrapping up the event and stirring back to reality. Ava's stomach twisted with a mix of anxiety and exhilaration. They were stepping towards something profound, but chaos lurked just behind the door. "Let us go back inside," she suggested, glancing at the entrance. Richard hesitated, then nodded slowly. "I think I need to hear what they say. I can do this with your help." With that, he took her hand, offering her a jolt of electricity that raced straight to her heart. As they stepped back into the light, the room was alive with laughter and cheers, voices filled with hope and camaraderie. Watching Richard engage with the crowd, Ava's admiration deepened. He was no longer just the man who organized events. He was a beacon of hope, a vessel of change. She wanted nothing more than to stand by him as the community unfolded before them. But as the evening wound down, Ava spotted something. The fabric of the silent auction items had shifted, revealing a stark gap where a significant donation had vanished. Panic flared in her throat. Could this derail everything Richard had worked for? Richard caught her eye from across the room, a question etched on his face. He sensed something was wrong. "Ava?" he called, weaving through the crowd toward her. She opened her mouth to explain, her heart racing once more. Could she convey the significance of this moment? But instead, a shadow passed over Richard's face, a look of determination crossed with confusion. He was ready to dive into another challenge, while she was just trying to keep the ground from shaking beneath them. As she took a breath, she thought about what this truly meant for them both. Caught in that soft glow of uncertainty, she wondered, what decisions would they make when faced with this new obstacle? Would they rise together or fall apart? The answers loomed just out of reach, and the stakes had never felt higher. Ava swallowed hard as Richard drew closer, his brow furrowed with concern. She wanted to assure him, to tell him it was all going to be okay. But as the reality of the missing donation loomed larger, her stomach twisted into tighter knots. "What is it?" Richard demanded, his voice barely above the hum of the crowd. It's the auction," Ava stammered, casting a glance toward the empty spot that should have held the high-value item. "One of the major donations is gone. I think we've lost a key piece for fundraising." Richard's face tightened, the reality of the moment crashing over him like a cold wave. "Are you sure? I didn't see it on the table." Fear threaded through her words, creating a heavy silence between them. "We need to figure out how to resolve this before it spirals." He took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. "Okay, let us think. Did anyone come in late? Or maybe someone made a mistake while setting things up?" Ava couldn't shake the feeling of panic, mixing with admiration for Richard's determination to tackle the problem head-on. "It's possible, but I don't want it to look like we're unorganized." "Then we won tea." His voice had a new steadiness. "Let us ask around quietly. We can find out what happened without alarming anyone." Ava nodded, feeling a rush of reassurance from Richard's resolve. But deep down, doubt gnawed at her. What if they couldn't find the missing donation? The fear of failure shadowed the budding hope they had built together. They began weaving through the crowd, discreetly asking a few familiar faces if they'd seen the auction item. They started with Lila, a longtime community supporter who had been chatting with friends. Her face shifted from joy to concern as she heard their inquiry. "I didn't see anything unusual," she said, glancing back at the table. "But I did notice some folks leaving with items they may have taken something by mistake." "That's a lead," Richard said, and Ava felt a flicker of hope. Together, they moved to a small group of attendees who looked as though they were deep in conversation. Richard introduced the topic, and Ava could see the spark of anxiety in his eyes. It mirrored her own. But in the midst of the search, she felt a push of warmth from his hand tightly gripping hers. It was as if with every squeeze, they had a promise to protect each other through this chaos. Each clue they gathered led them to more questions. The room hummed with excitement, but Amelia, the event organizer, had just learned about their issue and quickly approached them. Richard's expression steeled as he faced her. "What's the situation?" Amelia asked, concern evident in her voice. "An item went missing from the auction," Richard replied. "We're asking around to see if anyone can help." Amelia pursed her lips, and Ava braced herself for criticism. But instead, Amelia's face softened. "We can still salvage this. Let us work together, brainstorm some possible solutions." The three of them began throwing out ideas, and for a moment, the community spirit wrapped around them like a warm hug. Awe and determination ignited inside Ava. They split up again, with Amelia calling on volunteers for a last-minute effort. Richard's unwavering attitude shone bright in the fray. Just when Ava thought hope might slip away, Richard caught her gaze with a reassuring smile, filling her with strength. But as they navigated the final moments of the event, tension filled the air. The crowd was restless, unaware of what loomed beneath the surface. Richard pulled her aside momentarily, away from the noise. "I can feel the pressure mounting," he said, and his voice was steady yet vulnerable. But I need you with me, your energy is what keeps me grounded. Ava's heart swelled. We're in this together, no matter what. As the last whispers of the evening settled around them, she realized the stakes were not just about the donation, but about the future they could potentially build together. With a deep breath, they stepped back into the fray, ready to face whatever would come next. But as they prepared to make their last push, a familiar face caught Ava's attention in the crowd, a man who she had hoped would never come back into their lives. The air crackled with unspoken tension. What was he doing here? And what did he want? Ava's heart raced as her eyes locked onto the man in the crowd. It felt like time stood still, the swirling noise of laughter, chatter, and clinking glasses fading into a muted backdrop. She hadn't seen him in years, and the mere sight of him dredged up a flood of memories, some sweet, others bitter. "Do you know him?" Richard whispered, his brow twitching with a mix of curiosity and concern. Ava forced her gaze away, brushing off the question. "No, just someone from my past," she managed, her voice trembling. But even as she said it, doubt settled in her chest. This wasn't just a simple coincidence. "Okay," Richard replied, scrutinizing her face. "We need to stay focused. We have to figure out what's going on with the auction." But the atmosphere had shifted. Ava felt a mix of dread and determination pulse through her as the man began to move closer. She directed her attention back to Richard, forcing a smile. "You're right. Let us find that item." They moved among the crowd, but her heart wasn't in it. Her mind raced with questions. Why was he here? Had he come to disrupt everything? Perhaps he'd come to gloat, to remind her of past mistakes. Richard's words floated through her mind, urging her to stay grounded. But the emotions were overwhelming as they approached another group. The man's eyes locked onto her again, causing her insides to twist. "Ava?" he called out. His voice was smooth, but there was an edge to it that made her skin crawl. Richard turned to face him. "Do you know this guy?" "Yes, an old acquaintance." Ava's throat felt tight. "Are you okay?" Richard asked softly, concern etching his features. "I will be," she replied, feigning strength. But deep down, she felt anything but okay. Her anxious heart raced faster, drumming in her ears like an impending storm. Suddenly, the man was there, effortlessly slipping into their closeness. "I didn't expect to see you here. It's a nice event." "I sent it? What do you want?" Ava shot back, her voice sharper than she intended. He held up both hands in mock surrender. "I just wanted to catch up. Ava, I've heard about your little fundraising efforts. Quite noble." There was a hint of sarcasm in his tone that stung. Richard stepped closer, protective. "This is not the place for old stories or past grudges. We're busy right now." "Busy? I heard you're missing something quite valuable," he taunted, his eyes glinting with a mischievous spark. "Maybe I could help for a price." "Help?" Ava echoed incredulously, fury bubbling within her. "What kind of help?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You know the auction has its secrets. I'm just saying I might know something if the right incentive were offered." Richard's hand tightened around Ava's. "You stay away from her." The man laughed softly, his gaze darting between them. "Relax. I'm just here to offer a solution." Ava felt caught between her fear and anger, torn by the tension she couldn't shake. She knew she shouldn't entertain him, yet he was a reminder of everything she'd worked to overcome. Could he really help find the missing donation? Or was he just playing a dangerous game? Suddenly, her phone buzzed in her pocket, shattering her focus. It was Amelia, urgently texting about the dwindling time left for the auction. Panic rushed back in, and she realized they had no time for distractions. "Just think about it, Ava," he said, backing away slowly, each word dripping with promise and threat. As he slipped back into the crowd, Ava turned to Richard. The confidence in his eyes steadied her. "We can't let him out of our sight." "Together," Richard affirmed, squeezing her hand. But in that chaos of emotion and concern, an unsettling thought loomed. What kind of price would the man demand? And what secrets could he reveal about the auction that would change everything? Feeling the weight of that uncertainty, Ava forced herself back into action. They had to focus on solving the problem ahead, regardless of the past that had come crashing back. "Let us go," she urged, leading them through the crowd, but the tension within her lingered, reminding her that not everything was as simple as it seemed. How would she truly confront this uninvited shadow from her past, and what discoveries awaited them as they searched for the missing donation? Ava's pulse thudded in her ears as she navigated the crowded room, urgency spurring her forward. Richard kept pace by her side, but her thoughts were elsewhere, haunted by the man's lingering presence. She cast a glance over her shoulder, searching for any sign of him. The anxiety twisted in her gut like a coiled spring. "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" Richard's voice broke through her thoughts, grounding her just a bit. "We can come back later." "We can't. The auction is our best chance to find the missing donation," she replied, though doubt flickered like a candle in her chest. "If we don't act now, it could be too late." "Right," he said, his eyes scanning the crowd as if searching for threats. "But I can't shake this feeling about him. We can't let him distract us." Ava nodded, pressing her lips together. Richard was right. She needed to focus. They pushed further into the crowd, following the tangled maze of people toward the auction display. As they reached a clearing, she locked her gaze on the display table where a small, intricately carved box sat. It sparkled under the lights, drawing her in like a moth to flame. "Is that it?" Richard asked, his voice lowering in astonishment. "It's beautiful." "It is," Ava breathed, taking a step closer. Touching it could reveal secrets or consequences. She hesitated, feeling the weight of the moment. The box was tied to memories she'd rather forget, but now it called to her. "If this is connected to the missing donation, we need to report it." Before she could make a decision, the room's atmosphere shifted. Heads turned, and whispers rippled through the crowd. Ava looked up, heart racing. The man was back, this time standing at the edge of the room with an almost predatory grin. His presence was magnetic, drawing curious onlookers closer. "Looks like he's planning something," Richard muttered, his protective instincts flaring. "Let us not stick around to find out," Ava suggested, turning back to the box. But just as she reached for it, the man's low voice cut through the din. "Ava, I think you might be looking for something more valuable than that." He stepped forward, the crowd parting for him like water. "Back off," Richard warned, positioning himself in front of her. The man held his hands up in mock surrender again. Now, no need for hostility. I just want to talk." Ava felt like an animal cornered by a hunter. "What do you want?" she bit out, emulating Richard's defensive stance. "To help you." The confidence in his inflection was unnerving. "You're after something that could change everything for both of us." He leaned in, lowering his voice. "I know where it is, but it will take some negotiation." Richard bristled, falling deeper into a protective mode. "Ava, we can't trust him. He clearly has intentions we don't understand." Feeling torn, Ava's heart fluttered at the idea that he might know something crucial. But at what cost? Remembering the scars that surrounded their past, she felt the familiar pang tighten around her heart. "Why would you help me?" she asked, a mix of skepticism and disbelief coloring her words. Because he hesitated, a calculating spark blooming in his eyes. "Perhaps I want to clear the slate. Or maybe I just enjoy a challenge." Ava took a deep breath, battling the rising tide of anger and desperation. "You think I'd trust anything you offered after everything?" The man's smile didn't falter. "I wouldn't expect you to. But understand, the stakes are high. You'll either take my offer or walk away with nothing." Richard's grip on Ava's arm was firm. "We're not playing games here." He pressed at a weight settled in Ava's chest, each heartbeat echoing uncertainty. How much more was she willing to sacrifice to keep Richard and the event safe? The man's offer loomed over her, jagged and dangerous, an urge bubbled inside her, a need for control, for clarity. "What do you want in return?" The man grinned slyly, stepping closer as the crowd swelled with spectators, their rapt attention hanging over the moment like a storm cloud. Let us just say I know the secret about the donation. Are you ready for the truth? Her heart hammered against her rib cage. Would this lead to salvation or ruin? Ava pondered, the weight of her choice more suffocating than silence. And as the crowd leaned in, hungry for the spectacle, she realized she was standing on the edge of something bigger than herself. Would she cross that line into the unknown? What awaited her in that uncertain twilight? Determined, she steadied her breath. I want to hear the truth. And with that declaration, everything hung precariously in the balance. The man's grin widened as if he had anticipated her response. The whispered anticipation from the crowd buzzed like a swarm of bees. Good decision, Ava, he said, his voice smooth and steady. But let us step away from prying eyes, shall we? Richard moved to block him, all tension and fury. We're not going anywhere with you. Ava felt the conflict brewing inside her. A storm of hunger for answers battling against the caution Richard embodied. No, Richard, I think we should listen, she insisted, her voice steadying with resolve. If he truly knows something, we can't just turn away. The man cocked his head slightly, intrigued by her willingness to engage. Smart girl. Come with me. I promise you won't regret it. As long as you're ready to face what's been hidden. With reluctance etched on Richard's face, he fell into step beside her as they followed the man. They weaved through the crowd, the sounds of laughter and chatter fading into a dull murmur. The man led them through a side door, into a dimly lit hallway that smelled of polished wood and old books. Here, he gestured to a small room lined with shelves, filled with various artifacts and art. The atmosphere shifted, more intimate, effective in its isolation. Let us talk. Ava glanced around the room, her heart racing. She could feel Richard's eyes on her, protective and wary. Now, what do you know about the donation? She asked, forcing herself to focus, to quell the tremor in her voice. Everything, he replied, leaning against a shelf, arms crossed. The donation itself is tied to powerful interests, but it's also tangled in a web of lies. What do you mean? Richard interrupted, tension coiling along his spine as he kept a watchful eye on the man. It's more complex than you think, the man said. You can't just follow the money. You have to understand the players involved. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. You see, the donation isn't just money. It's a promise, a future. Why are you telling us this? Ava pressed, eyes locked onto his, searching for sincerity under the bravado. His gaze sharpened. Because I've seen what happens when you ignore the truth. I've watched it destroy lives. He stepped closer, intensifying the moment. What if I told you there's a way to not just retrieve it but to expose the corruption surrounding it? Richard scoffed, skepticism dripping from his words. What's the catch? Catches are for those who fear what they can't control, the man replied, a challenge glinting in his eye. I'll help you, but you need to be prepared. This isn't just a matter of bringing the donation back. It's about making a statement. Ava's pulse quickened. The allure of uncovering the truth, of breaking free from the shadows of her past, pulled at her. And what do you gain from this? To see the balance restored, he said simply. Maybe a little chaos wakes the world up from its complacency. What chaos? Richard interjected again, his voice strained. Everything secrets, betrayals, alliances. It's all connected, the man said. This donation could change everything, for better or worse. Ava swallowed hard. Her instinct screamed to retreat. But the dawn of possibility ignited something within her. Tell me what I need to do. The man leaned in, eyes sparkling with the thrill of the game. You must trust me enough to step into the line of fire. Are you ready for that? Richard clenched his jaw, but Ava felt a surge of determination. The choice ahead loomed like a cliff, steep and daunting. Could she really navigate this dangerous path? Will you trust me, Ava? The man asked, an invitation laced with promise. Her heart raced as hope battled fear. She was standing on the brink. Would crossing into this unknown bring her answers or lead her deeper into darkness? As she weighed her options, the crowd's murmurs echoed in her mind. She took a breath, allowing the tension to flow through her. ready to accept whatever lay ahead. Yes, I'll do it. But as she said the words, a part of her wondered had she just opened the door to her own redemption, or to a Pandora's box of deeper troubles. The answer hung in the air, weighted with the unspoken repercussions of her choice. In that moment, silence enveloped the three of them, an unbreakable pact resting on the edge of an uncertain future. What awaited them on the other side of trust? The man broke the silence, stepping further into the room with a certain ease that felt unsettling. He gestured to a dusty map laid out on a table, its creases deep and worn. "This," he said, excitement lacing his voice, "is where we begin. Each marked spot tells a story, connected to those who want to keep the truth buried." Richard shifted, arms folded tightly. "Stories are great, but we need facts. How do we expose anything if we have nothing concrete?" Ava leaned closer, curiosity gnawing at her. "What stories?" she asked, intrigued despite the tension wrapping around her chest. The man's smile faded, replaced by a seriousness that sent a chill down her spine. "The stories of greed that led to this donation. The people behind it. They think they're untouchable, but everyone has a weakness." A flicker of doubt crossed Richard's face. "And you know these people? Better than I'd like to admit," he replied, his tone dropping. "I've lost friends, family. Fighting for truth always comes at a cost." Ava felt the weight of his words. "And you want us to help?" "Not just help," the man insisted, his eyes shining with fervor. "You'll lead this charge. People will listen to you, Ava. You have the voice and the heart." Her heart raced. Could she really be a part of something so monumental? Doubts washed over her as she glanced at Richard, whose expression was a mix of concern and admiration. "We can't just leap in blind," he cautioned, turning to the man. "What's your plan?" "There's a meeting tomorrow night. Gatherings of those in power." The man leaned in closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "This is where you'll find the truths they want to hide. The influence they wield won't last if the right people point it out." Ava felt a surge of adrenaline at the thought. "What do I need to do?" "Act as if you belong. They won't suspect a thing not if you play your cards right. Listen close. Use what you learn to pull the thread that unravels it all." "But if they find out," Richard interjected, a distinct warning hanging in the air. "Then we adapt," the man declared, a confident smile returning. "That's where chaos comes in. You stir the pot and people will react. It's all about commanding attention." Ava nodded slowly, her heartbeat sinking to the urgency in the room. She could see the potential unfolding before her, but fear wrapped its icy fingers around her instincts. "What if they don't react the way we hope?" "Then we push harder," he replied, an edge of steel in his voice. "But the risk is worth it. Lives depend on it." For a moment, she caught Richard's worried gaze. The weight of the unknown lingered between them. But this was her chance, not just a choice for herself but for others too. Determination solidified in her heart. "I'm in. I'll do it." "Good," the man fired back, pride in his eyes. "But remember, the deeper you dive, the darker it gets. Are you ready for that?" Ava's stomach churned, but the fire burned brighter within her. Somehow, she knew there was no turning back. As they began discussing the details, the anticipation crackled in the air like static. She could sense something shifting, a storm about to break. But amidst the buzzing energy, doubts hung heavy. Richard's shadow loomed behind her. Would he ever truly support her? Or was he just a tether to her past, a barrier to her future? The man's voice cut through her thoughts. "If you're ready, the meeting's our first step. Just remember, trust no one." Ava felt the chill creep back in. She was about to venture into a world clouded with deception. It was thrilling and terrifying all at once. What truths could lie beyond the next door? As the meeting time approached, she couldn't shake the feeling that with every step into the abyss, she might uncover something far greater than she'd ever anticipated. Would it change her forever, or unravel everything she held dear? The day of the meeting dawned, shrouded in a gray mist that clung to the streets of Cedar Grove like a blanket of uncertainty. Ava stood in front of her mirror, nerves buzzing through her veins. She dressed carefully, a blend of boldness and humility in her attire, hoping to strike a chord of confidence within herself. Today was not just another day. Today, she would step into the unknown and command attention as she approached the venue. Her heart thundered like a war drum. The building loomed ahead, a stone edifice that felt like a fortress of secrets. Richard walked alongside her, a constant presence of strength, though the tension that crackled between them felt hard to ignore. "You got this," he murmured, squeezing her hand gently. "I hope so," Ava whispered. "For Mia. For everything." They crossed the threshold, entering a room filled with influential figures draped in tailored suits, expensive watches glinting in the dim lights. Conversations buzzed like an angry swarm of bees, rich voices puncturing the air as plan after plan swirled around. Ava felt like an intruder, but with each step, the gravity of her mission fueled her courage. "Remember," she reminded herself, "trust no one." Among the crowd, the man with the sly smile stood at the front, beckoning her toward him. "There's our key player," he murmured, pointing out an elderly man with silver hair, the decision-maker behind the town's finances, and perhaps the holder of the hidden truth. Ava's heart raced. She adjusted her stance, feeling the weight of Richard's gaze behind her. She needed to connect, to listen and seize any opportunity to gather information. "Stay close," Richard whispered, scanning the room like a hawk. Taking a deep breath, Ava stepped forward into the thrumming energy. Eyes glided past her curiosity peaked at a newcomer. She wrapped her confidence around herself like a warm scarf, moving toward the elderly man. "Excuse me, sir," she said, her voice clear, yet soft. He turned, lifting an eyebrow high in curiosity. "I'm Ava. I think it's time we speak about the donation for Cedar Grove schools," she stated, holding his gaze steady. The truth armored by her sincerity, a shadow clouded his features. "Who are you to speak on such matters?" "I'm a mother who believes deeply in our community's future," she said firmly. "And I might know more than you think." A murmur of attention rippled through the crowd, and before she realized it, the whispers began to weave a cocoon around her. Seizing the moment, she continued, "The donation isn't just a check, is it? It's a promise, a commitment to uplift our children." Richard stood beside her, radiating strength, and added, "We all deserve to know the truth behind those funds. There's more at stake than meets the eye." The old man frowned, his posture stiffening. "You're treading dangerous waters, young lady." "Maybe," Ava acknowledged, surprising herself with the boldness. "But it's time we all accept the need for transparency. The quest for knowledge is the only path forward." Gasps spread through the room, but a strange solidarity began to form. People leaned in, suddenly curious rather than dismissive. This wasn't just talk. This was awakening something long buried beneath layers of complicity. The man's eyes darted confusion mixed with annoyance. "You think you can challenge me in my own gathering?" Ava didn't back down. "I believe we're all challenged by the responsibility to change everything that inhibits our youth's futures." Minutes felt like hours as silence enveloped them. Suddenly, the man glared, his chest puffing out as he replied, "No one cares what you think." "Then let us prove you wrong," Richard said, stepping forward as if to protect. "You've kept us in the dark for too long. Time to shed light on the truth." Awareness began to churn in the crowd, and murmurs shifted into fervor. People whispered about their struggles, their uncertainty, and then words morphed into rallying cries. "We need change. We deserve answers." Ava felt the weight of possibility surge through her. "Together we are undoubtedly stronger." As the crowd rallied, behind her, she saw Richard's face soften, pride swelling in his eyes. In that moment, she knew they had ignited something remarkable, the birth of a movement fueled by realizations and unyielding hope. The old man wilted under the mounting pressure. "Fine," he acquiesced, his voice shaky but loud enough for all to hear. "Let us discuss the terms of this donation. But be careful what you wish for." Cheers erupted, faces shining with a renewed sense of purpose. Ava and Richard exchanged a glance, and in that fleeting moment, they both understood. Their lives had transformed in unexpected ways. Later, As they stepped outside into the cool evening air, Ava found herself smiling, hope coursing through her veins. "Can we really change things?" she asked, taking in the stars now bursting to life above them. Richard nodded, his eyes bright with determination. "Together we can." "You showed them the way tonight." Mia would see a world where opportunity bloomed, a world rich with possibility. As they walked hand in hand, Ava realized it didn't just change the outside, they had transformed within. "Thank you for believing in me," she said softly. "You showed me what true strength looks like," he replied, their bonds deepening. As they headed home, the promise of a bright future filled the air, weaving through Cedar Grove. Finally, they were ready to rebuild not just homes, but hope. This was just the beginning, they would embrace it together. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you just like this one. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts eager for transformation. Comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this uplifting journey. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support for our community.